Yes, people, welcome to the First 11. This is the United show. This is the review of the Man United Chelsea game, or Chelsea United game, I should say, because we played away at Chelsea. Rachel's here making her first appearance on the channel. Big United fan, incredible knowledge, knows her stuff. Go and follow her. Links are in the description. And Gem and Lambs, both GNA TV, both on this channel a lot. The Football Terrace, obviously. They'll be giving their opinions on not only Chelsea, but United. So we're going to do a bit of a flip on talking about each other's teams, each other's managers, and give a full review of the game. So I want to start really with, well, the beginning of the game, really, because I've got a theory that, it's not a theory, actually, it's my opinion. I feel that Ollie surprised Tuchel in that we pressed high, pushed the fullbacks up, and Tuchel set up for us to sit back, which for me is why he played Mount, and Ziyech, and played Giroud up top. Jem, you kind of disagreed with me a little bit yesterday.
Yeah, I don't agree.
You don't agree. Let me hear your opinion. Let me hear it.
No, it's not that I don't agree with you. I agree that you've surprised us on the flip in terms of pressing. I actually thought you would sit back myself. I didn't really know that you guys would actually come out with a McFred in the middle, put some pressure on us, and it caught us off guard a bit. But I just feel like the decisions that we made yesterday in terms of the players that were playing were half of a side of Liverpool on Thursday. Timo Werner not playing, but playing against Atletico for 90 minutes and not playing this game was a bit of a strange one for me. I just feel like I know you said Solskjaer outwitted our guy Tuchel in many ways. But I just think it was down to us actually playing individuals that, with a half an eye of Liverpool in mind, if that makes sense, more than him outwitting him. Because I think we counted you out quite a lot as well. There was a lot of things that we did in the game that counted you, and vice versa. But the one thing it was the first half was it was good to watch. You know, you was shutting us down. You'd have a good quick spell possession, then we would have the ball. We'd have a quick spell possession, and it was just like backwards and forwards. So for me, it was like, I feel like we didn't play our strengths. We didn't play to our strengths yesterday. Chelsea didn't play to their strengths yesterday in terms of who we should have played. You don't play Mason Mount on the left. We stopped doing that at the beginning of the season. You know what I mean? But I don't know, man. We move on. We move forward.
Okay, Rachel, were you surprised with the way Ollie set up and the tactics yesterday to push a lot higher than we have been? And do you think that surprised Tuchel at all?
I think he set up that way because he saw on the team sheet that Giroud was playing and there wasn't a lot of pace for them to get in behind, which allowed us to push up the pitch. I think if Tuchel played Timo Werner and Pulisic, I think we wouldn't have pushed so high up the pitch because we couldn't afford to, because we'd have Lindelof and Maguire who would have been exposed. I think you see Giroud up front, who is basically a slug. And I think that, you can easily just push up the pitch because of that. So I think that response was probably in the hour before when the team sheets got released. He saw the lineup and he said, "You know what, guys, you can push further up the pitch because you're not going to be punished for it." And we weren't.
Yeah,
True.
No, I agree. Lambs, what's your take on it? What's your feeling?
Yeah, I definitely think that he although he did set up in quite a cagey way, I still think he thought, okay, we can take us on, and I think that's probably to do with the changes that we made. Just to echo basically what Jem said, coming off the Atletico Madrid game, going on Liverpool, and then obviously the return leg against Atletico Madrid, and I think we have Leeds in between there as well, which is not going to be easy as well, knowing the way Leeds play. So there's a lot of games coming thick and fast, and we have a huge squad, and I think the way that Tuchel's rotating the squad and managing players as well, I think it's been pretty great. And in a way, I'm quite disappointed because, yes, even though United actually, if you look at the stats, the overall stats from the game, it does show that we were slightly more dominating possession chances, created shots, taken, etc. But if you see the stats, there's not really that much of a significant difference in terms of United stats as well, which means they did have their fair share of the ball. I think what was just clear to see is that our midfield was just set up in a way that Kante and Kovacic were just very, very, very fast and intercepting, making those tackles, getting the ball back from your midfield very, very quickly. And in a way, they essentially bullied your midfield. They didn't give United a chance to get the ball forward. And to Rashford and the famous counter attacks, Rashford and Greenwood, like United are probably known to do and probably wanted to do. We didn't allow United to do that. But in a way, I do think we lost the game. Sorry, not lost the game because we didn't lose the game, but in a way, I feel like we lost the opportunity to win the game by not taking our chances, because I feel like we had the better chances, and we'll get on to that. But
yeah, no, I'll say it now. I think that's a point gain for United and 2 drop for Chelsea. I mean, for me, it's, I don't know what you think, Rachel, but for me, it's like a lot of people are talking about Ollie didn't make the right substitutions, didn't make substitutions. I'm not sure whether he actually had any, if I'm honest, in the attacking third that he could have made. I mean, I don't know what your thoughts on it are.
My changes would have been in the midfield, personally.
Okay.
We didn't have a player on the pitch that could break the lines. Fred and McTominay tried it, and they failed at it most of the game. I think Fred's best pass was at the end, when McTominay should have gotten the ball into the box, and I think Kante intercepted it. We don't have a midfielder that breaks lines apart from Pogba and Matic. Matic doesn't get to play that often because he's like way past it now. But I don't know why you wouldn't try Adoni in there. He keeps the ball well. He breaks lines. He progresses the play up the pitch. I don't see why you wouldn't try it. But maybe he wasn't fit, like fully fit. I think he came back from injury, didn't he? Or he had COVID. So that could have been the reason why. I don't see the point in bringing on Martial. He's been poor for us for a really long time now. Yeah. And our issue wasn't the hold-up play, because I thought Greenwood, when he got the ball, he laid it off quite well at times in the game. So everything that Martial would have done, Greenwood was doing anyway. Yeah. So really, Martial didn't add anything. Daniel James maybe could have been taken off, but Rashford was poor as well. I mean, the only one you could have brought on was maybe Diallo, but we don't know what Diallo can do.
Yeah.
18 years old, he's just got here, and it's very difficult to judge him. There wasn't
and no pressure, right? No pressure on him or Greenwood. They're both young players.
Yeah, definitely. I think I would have made the changes in midfield personally, just to try and get the ball. I think we were poor in transition throughout the whole game.
I would agree. I agree. I mean, do any of you think, in terms of Donny, it's more about balance for him being in the midfield? Do you think the coaching staff and Ollie trust the balance of him with a McTominay or him with a Fred, or is it more that he's not up to scratch? What are your thoughts on it, especially Gem and Lambs? Because I want to know how you see it.
For me, I don't think you can say that with Donny. I don't really think he's been given a fair opportunity. In all fairness, I don't really feel like he's been given the opportunity to show if he can play with Fred, if he can play with Bruno, if he can play with Pogba. He's been in and out of games, but he hasn't really been consistently been able to hold his position or been given a full 90 minutes to be able to show what he's about. I think it's more than that. I don't think, from the way Ollie's reacted, I don't feel like Donny was was his player. I believe it was a ball player. I think he might be punishing him because of that, to be honest, and that's unfair on him in my eyes. So if I was Donny, I'd look at it in the summer. If I'm not involved, if they're going to confirm to me and that Ollie's still going to be here for the next season, and I'm not going to be given an opportunity to get involved, at least in half the games that they're playing, he deserves to play. Why is McTominay and Fred starting over him? They're not ability-wise better than him. Doesn't make no sense. The guys come from Ajax. Like, it makes no sense. But if I was Donny, I'd sit there and go, do you know what? If you don't see me in your plans and Ollie's going to be at the helm, put me up for sale. Quick as you bought me, put me up for sale. That's what I would be like. And I'd say that for my players as well, because we've got a couple like that. I'm not going to lie. But I don't know, man. What do you think, Lambs?
Yeah, see, that's the thing. It's difficult because that's literally what I was going to say. It's so hard to make an assessment on Donny because he hasn't really been afforded the opportunity to play. He hasn't really had the chance to play very many minutes for United. And even so, sometimes they'll throw him on when the game's already done, or, they've already lost the game, or it's clear that they've already won the game and he doesn't really have enough of an opportunity or time even to make a significant effect, because the game's already lost, the game's already won. Do you know what I mean? Like, him coming on is not really going to make a difference. But he is a great player, and I really don't understand why he's not being afforded these opportunities, especially when you have players like Fred, players like McTominay, who we know what kind of players they are. And sometimes when you're watching United and you're sitting there as fans thinking, like, what's the style? Like, what's the identity? I can't really see it. And I feel like they're missing creativity, and that's an option that he can bring. And sometimes when I look at the other subs you're bringing on instead of him, like, it doesn't really make any sense. And the only thing I can surmise is that I don't think Ollie wanted him as a player. I think he had other targets on his mind at the time, and I think the board were just like, well, we're just going to go ahead and get Van de Beek because that's what we're going to do anyway. So the same way, I don't think Kai Havertz was Frank Lampard's choice. It was just Chelsea Football Club. They were going to get Havertz. They were going to get him anyway, whether Frank liked it or not. So yeah, it's a shame, and I have to agree with Jem. But I think Ollie will be gone before Donny. I think Ollie will be gone because I feel like people are starting to wake up and realize that this is the trend. This is as far as your manager takes you. Like, this is his level. And if you think about it, he's got no real significant achievements that warrant that he's worthy of this job to manage Manchester United Football Club. Really? And we've seen this same issue. We've seen it with Chelsea. We've seen it with Juventus. We're seeing it with Manchester United now, where these ex-players, these ex-legends of clubs are coming in managing these big clubs. And let's not lie, these clubs are too big for them at this moment in time, especially when they're not established. And you're seeing the trouble that Juventus are in right now. You're seeing what happened with us under Frank Lampard. And you're basically starting to see that Manchester United, yeah, if Pogba and Bruno are together, they can put together a little bit of a run. But when it really comes down to it, big crunch time against the big six, he's not producing results. He's not progressing to finals and winning new trophies. So he's got to
go. Rachel, you wanted to say something. I could see you wanting to speak. What's your thoughts on it?
On Ollie?
On Ollie, on Van de Beek. What's your
the Ollie thing for me, I don't think he is the coach that's going to take us to the Premier League title. I've never thought that about him. Even when he was interim, saw a lot of holes in what he did and I didn't like them. I never really wanted him as our manager in the first place, but it is what it is with that one. What I'll say about Donny is people keep saying that he can't play in the double pivot. I think he can. He can play anywhere in the midfield. It's not just about him being a number 10. He's not a number 10. He can play anywhere depending on the system that you're playing. He doesn't suit the Bruno role because he's not a risk-taking midfielder. He likes to progress the ball up the pitch slowly. He likes to have his whole midfield work with him. And he looks for the runs and he makes intelligent runs himself and no one really finds him. And we've seen it whenever he's played with us, he makes very good runs in half spaces and no one finds him. No one even looks up for him. Whereas when Bruno's on the pitch, most of our players, the first thing they do is look for Bruno. Everything goes through Bruno. Well, not everything. Most things go through Bruno because he's the one that takes the risk to do something. Not many players do that in our team, especially in the midfield. And Donny should be playing in that double pivot. They should try him out 100%. And he's not doing it. I don't know why.
Indiana, you're muted.
You're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
that's it. Yeah.
Better. Sorry, I agree with you, but for me, it's more why Van der Beek doesn't work is because of the players around him. Like, he's the sort of player who needs high IQ players, want to pop the ball off quick. Once he's do you know what I'm trying to say though? Once he's in that space, he wants that ball to feet. Before it's got to his feet, he knows where it's going. He's popping it off quick, and you can only do that if you've got players with the same intelligence that he's got. No offense to Fred and McTominay, they haven't got that. That's not their game at all. I don't think Rashford's really got that. I don't think that's his game either. So that's where I see him struggle. I think he would be, if you're going to play him in there, I'd play him in there with a Pogba. But then we lack that defensive side. Yeah. That's my issue. And with Bruno, the reason Bruno works is because Bruno will take a risk no matter what. Bruno's game is completely different. We got to stop comparing Bruno and Van der Beek. They are not the same type of player at all. Not at all. That's like comparing Cavani and De Gea for me. Like two completely different things.
Taker.
He is a risk taker. He is. That's his game. But you do need intelligent players around you. You do need like Juan Mata. Mata doesn't always work in this team. We know that.
Mm-hmm.
But he's an incredibly intelligent player. He's not the fittest or quickest player anymore. But on the ball, he's an intelligent player. He knows where the ball's going. He pops it off quick. He's very creative. We are a few players away, in my opinion. We are a few players away. We play without a natural right winger. We play with 2 box-to-box midfielders in the DM roles. We are a centre-back away. I mean, a centre-back, if you've got a tight back four, that allows your midfield to do more. We are playing those two to cover up the problems we have in the back four, in my opinion. That we pretty much go and try and nick the ball quick, which Fred does do well. I can't lie. He does nick the ball quickly. It's what he does after that that's the problem. But I want to get back to the game. So when we seen the high line from United, I was thinking, that's it. Werner's coming on. Pulisic are going to come on. He's going to start playing these quick players, and he didn't change it. Is that where you two are questioning the substitution there?
Massively. I thought the reason, if you want my honest opinion, I thought the reason we didn't excel in that game was because our manager limited us to. I feel like he could have made decisions even at half time. You could clearly see that Man United were playing a high line, which was unusual for you guys. You had Maguire and Lindelof playing at the halfway line. Have you ever seen that before? Ever? Do you know what I mean? Against the top 16, more so against the top 16. And he didn't react to that. Obviously, we lost Cho, and Cho for me is our only out-and-out winger that gives us natural width, will be direct. But then he brings on Reece James, and that Reece James for me, you bring him on. Even though I like Reece James, he's not going to do what Cho does. He's more of a defensive winger than an attacking wing back, if that makes sense. So we lose that impotence there already. He then decides to leave Hakim Ziyech on the pitch, who was absolutely shocking. I gave a -5 rating today because he was a waste of space. Yeah, it was shocking. Man was trying to pass it to his right to an invisible player. Like, what is he doing? Do you know what I mean? And he left him on the pitch when what he should have done at halftime is remove him off, throw Werner on, keep your target man on. Yeah, he even took our target man off and put on a Pulisic. It didn't make sense because then you had Reece James crossing balls in and hoping Ziyech is going to beat Maguire in the air, who's an absolute beast. He's a fridge. You're not going to do that. Do you know what I mean? So, like, we what I'm saying is we were our own downfall yesterday in terms of our manager did not make the right decisions when need to be. Because I do think we could have maybe nicked one. If we'd have put Werner on, if we'd have moved Mason Mount back in the middle, if we'd have thrown Pulisic on later on. If you want to take Giroud off, cool. But put Werner on earlier, and then take Ziyech off and put Pulisic on. So you've got a bit of pace between him, Mount, and Werner. But he didn't do any of that. So I will question him yesterday. It was poor decisions from him yesterday, Myers. And we were lucky you guys didn't nick it. Let's be serious. We were lucky that you didn't nick it. Because if you would have nicked it, I'd have been even more rated.
We both
You say that, Indiana, all right? You say that. Bruno, 3 times in that game, if he didn't make the right pass into Rashford, which is what you're usually good at doing, which is countering, would have punished us. It's only because our defence maybe or Bruno let you down. That was it. Do you know what I mean? So we did sort out our clinical edge, and that's our issue at the moment. We've got no clinical. We don't make enough chances. We're not clinical. You know, it's an issue for us at the moment. We really need to suss it out.
Yeah, no, I do hear you there. What about players? I want to talk about individual players. So, who stood out in that game from both sides from you? We'll start with Lambs. Who were the players who stood out from both sides?
From Chelsea's point of view, Kante, I thought he was brilliant, absolutely brilliant, phenomenal. At times, there was almost like I was just seeing the old Kante, just like making runs forward with the ball, like kind of what he used to do at Leicester as well. It was nice to see, like, intercepting, just pouncing on the United midfield, not even allowing them to have the ball. Completely, absolutely took Bruno out of the game. It was just like, no, mate, not today. I thought it was phenomenal. And for Manchester United, I'd have to go with Luke Shaw. I think as a player, this is somebody who has been completely overlooked, especially considering what Mourinho said about him. And this season, he looks like a transformed player, like a completely different guy. And he's been absolutely phenomenal in that left back position. United, real consistent, real reliable. When your centre backs are liable and make those questionable mistakes, he's always there, like running, tracking back, making those last-ditch tackles, those blocks, intercepting the ball, trying to bring the ball forward, trying to make those runs on the wing as well. I'm just like, I'm actually shocked at how much pace Luke Shaw has as well. I'm just like, oh, Luke Shaw, is that you? Yeah. So honestly, like he's somebody that's really impressed me from Manchester United. I know everybody's always talking about Bruno this, Bruno that, and he gets underlooked under the radar, but he's actually been one of your most consistent defensive players this season. So, and again, yesterday was no different. Great performance.
No, I'd agree. Rachel, what's your thoughts? Who stood out for you yesterday from both sides?
I would have to agree with Lambs, to be honest. But I want to give a shout out to David De Gea because he's been under a lot of scrutiny. And his save, I think it was Ziyech who took the shot, actually. I think it was a great save because he was going the wrong way. He was going to the other side of the goal and he left out a hand. And it was strong enough to carry it away, which was really, really impressive to me. And he saved us because if we go a goal down, we don't come back into that game. We don't get a goal back because we'd have to open up and they would just punish us anyway. So I thought David De Gea saved us yesterday. And he did really well. But yeah, Luke Shaw and Kante were the best two players on the pitch for both sides, in my opinion. Nothing more to add, really.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you.
Yeah, that's a different opinion. I know this for sure.
No, I thought Rudiger had a good game. I thought Mendy had a good game. Luke Shaw did have a good game. Dan James did all right actually yesterday. He runs his socks off.
Oh, he didn't.
He did do all right. He did do all right.
He runs like a headless chicken. That's what he does. He runs around like an headless chicken.
Yeah, but that's what he's there for, Jem. Because it's not for his quality. If you're expecting Ronaldinho from him, you're dreaming. Because
I've never known someone to get the ball away so much in him. Actually, get the ball and just lose it.
Trent Alexander-Arnold.
Yeah,
that's who I'll go with. But no, I thought both keepers had great performances. Kante was incredible. Like Rashford's never been that sharp. He always likes to take a touch before he shoots. That's his thing. Kante coming in last minute from nowhere, ghosting in, nicking the ball from him. I thought Kante was incredible yesterday, so I got to give him a shout out as well. Do you feel like because of the way the game went, and for me, I think you were missing Thiago. He wasn't fit, but I don't think you're actually missing him, if that makes sense, because I think Rudiger had an incredible game. Yeah. Was Jorginho fit?
Yeah.
Jorginho was fit. Maybe he was a player you could have brought on. I don't know whether he would have changed much at all.
No.
But for me, Pogba and Cavani, big misses for me.
Yeah.
I think the way we played is Cavani's game. That's literally what he does the whole game. From minute one, he's putting pressure on, he's pressing, and he's a goal scorer. He's a finisher. He drags players out. We know his movement's incredible. Pogba he's a game changer. When he's on it, there's no one better than him at changing the game. He's incredible. It's just not always on it, but he has been recently. Do you feel like you got away with? Do you feel like you got away with one with those two being out and the players that we played? Because we didn't really have anything to bring from the bench apart from maybe a Donny.
Cavani's that was the kind of game that Cavani would have loved because it was so tight and there was not much going on and it needed we only had one or two opportunities, but that's all he needs. Like just to get on the end with his movement and just bury it into the bottom corner. Like Cavani could have been an issue yesterday. I said this when I was doing the watch along with Terrace. I said Cavani was playing in this game and it wasn't Greenwood up front. I reckon they would have made one chance for him. Not saying he would have scored it, but you would worry with Cavani because he's the kind of player that can win games single-handedly. Do you know what I mean? Paul Pogba, for me, I've said you know what my views are on Paul Pogba. I think Paul Pogba is your best player at Manchester United. I actually genuinely think he is the most talented. On his day, he is irreplaceable. He is world class. I like Bruno. But Paul Pogba gives you everything in my eyes. He's good on the ball. He can drive with the ball. He sets up goals. He can score goals. Yeah, people moan about his defending, but he can track back as well. And he does his fair share trying to win the ball back. And for me, Cavani would have been an issue, but I'd have been more scared if Paul Pogba was on that pitch, because I just feel like with him, it only takes a moment of brilliance for him to open up a game. And he's got that. And with Bruno, I think he's more of a risk taker. As with Pogba, he's more calm on the ball and he makes the right decisions usually 9 times out of 10. The only thing that Pogba does do, which lets him down, is sometimes he dwells on the ball too much in his own area. Like he takes too many touches, where he should just get rid of it. But overall, if I could take one player out of Manchester United and put him into Chelsea, it'd be him, because I think him and Kante would be absolutely immense. They play with France together, didn't they? So it would just work, because he needs an N'Golo Kante behind him for you to see the best of him, because then he hasn't, even though he still tracks back, he hasn't got to worry as much. You get to allow him to give him the freedom role, a bit like what Bruno's doing, to be able to dictate games and take control. So for me, Paul Pogba is a massive miss for you guys at the moment, in my eyes.
Yeah, no, he's just incredible, isn't he? Before we go on, make sure you smash the like, subscribe. Everybody's socials and channel links are in the description, so get in there. Make sure you follow everybody, and make sure you share the stream, please. Really appreciate it. Rachel, your thoughts on us on having a weaker bench, if you like, than we should be.
I think if we start Paul Pogba, like in most of our games, I don't think Ollie would have many substitutions he could make that would be useful anyway. Our second string of players aren't good enough to change games. If you have McTominay or Fred on the bench and you need a goal, you're not going to bring any of them on.
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't change anything on the bench. Paul Pogba in the starting 11 obviously is a massive miss, because as we said before, he breaks lines and those two don't. But if he's starting, if we're in a situation like yesterday where, say, Paul Pogba's not having a good game and it's 0-0 and we want to try and go for the win, we still don't have anyone to bring on in the midfield. So in terms of the bench, it's exactly the same. We don't have anyone that can come on and change a game if Paul Pogba or Bruno's having a bad game. But yeah, we did miss Paul Pogba yesterday, because our transitions were horrible at times. Like we kept Chelsea had better chances in the final third in terms of getting the ball into the final third. Our attacks broke down before that because we didn't have players passing in the midfield. So we did miss Paul Pogba massively. But again, the bench is a shambles. It has been for a while.
I mean, we need to recruit first team players. That if we're going to buy players, we don't need squad players. We need first team players. That's where Man United are. Lambs, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, just to kind of echo that as well. Like, I think that's what United's main struggle is as well. Is that the team kind of relies on this like spine that kind of like runs through the middle, where you have De Gea, who's like your experienced, Premier League winner, goalkeeper. You've got a centre back, and I'm gonna skip that because I don't even think you guys have a reliable centre back at the moment, or a good centre back pairing. And then you go on to Pogba, Bruno, finishing off with Rashford in the front, and I feel like that's kind of how it works. So you take somebody as important as Pogba, who I've never seen anybody break the lines so beautifully as him as well. When you're in a game where the midfield has kind of targeted Bruno because they know that he provides that kind of threat. You have Pogba sitting deep, who's just able to spot Rashford in the space that he needs as a striker, running into that space. Put a beautiful overhead ball that will just land perfectly for him, allow him to run into the box, take a shot, whatever, and to kind of lose that option. And then, like you said, to look over your bench and just think, wow. Because me and Jem, we're sitting here thinking, look at the options we have. Pulisic, Havertz, Werner, Reece James. Who else? So many people. Like we've actually, the options are just Jorginho. I forgot about him. Gilmore. The options that we have on the bench are crazy. And you guys, when you look over to the bench and you think, oh, who can we put on? It's just Donny, and then that's it. And I think that's another issue as well. Recruitment has been so bad, and that's obviously you have your board to blame for that. Not having a director of football, having people in charge who don't know what they're doing or what they're talking about. spending 80 million to bring Harry Maguire in and, you know, refusing to admit that it's not working and having to play literally everybody next to him to realize that he still doesn't have that solid, most reliable centre-back pairing, because he's not the one. Whereas I think, and I've seen Bailly play alongside Lindelof, and they've looked so much better. And it's like, wow. So is it just Maguire that makes Lindelof look bad? I'm not even too sure. But, and again, it's the stubbornness. It's poor recruitment. It's just not good. It's you don't have enough squad depth. Like you said, look at our squad. Look at City. Look at Liverpool. Look at the position that they're in right now, because they don't have squad depth.
I'm not too sure about Liverpool.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Like, you take away their key players, and look at them. They capitulate. They fall apart because they don't have that level of quality in their squad depth. Do you know what I mean? They don't have that. They're putting on kids, teenagers. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
As centre backs. Do you know what I mean? It's a bit desperate for them. So, and I think they have the same issue as well.
Question I'd ask you, Indiana, both of you actually, as Man United fans, is that you're sitting in second. You're obviously 6 points. You're merry. You're looking okay. Do you feel like you've got away with it a little bit, that you've not actually needed your bench up to now? Because it's always been your first 11 that have pushed you and won you games. Not had many injuries, have you really, when you think about it as well, other than Paul Pogba in and out of games? Do you feel like you kind of had a little bit of a Liverpool season in terms of not having to rely on your bench and focus more on the first 11 that have got you through most of this season?
Rachel, you go first.
With Ollie and how he's rotated the squad in the first part of the season, he did the reverse Sir Alex. Sir Alex was known as for rotating his squad in the first half of the season. And in the second half of the season, he had a starting 11 that he relied on to go and win the Premier League or the Champions League. Ollie's done the reverse. He's had a starting 11 that he trusts. And then now I think we're going to start seeing injuries. I think obviously Paul Pogba's out. I don't know how long he's out for. Donny had COVID. But we're going to start to see players get pick-up injuries, I think. And then we'll have no one on the bench that we can really rely on. I think in the next few weeks, we're going to have a lot of problems because the Europa League is going to kill us. If Ollie keeps playing Bruno and Rashford in the Europa League games, especially the first leg, then we don't get the job done. And then he plays them in the second leg. I don't even want to think about what happened to our squad, to be honest. I think the problems are going to come.
And you have City coming next, right?
Yeah, and then we've got AC
Palace,
Milan.
I think. Is it Palace?
Yeah, it's Palace midweek, City, AC Milan, and then I can't remember who we're playing after that, but then we have AC Milan again. The fixture list is ridiculous, and we're going to pick up injuries, in my opinion. If he doesn't rotate the squad properly, I know it's difficult because our squad depth isn't great, but he has to rotate. He has to prioritize the Premier League. Otherwise, we'll fall off out of the top four.
Tuchel's done so well since he's come in as well. Like you saw, he made 6 changes, and we still didn't lose the game. In fact, like Jem said, we nicked him. So and that's because we have that luxury of that squad depth, which United at the moment, and you can see.
We do have squad depth, but my issue with having squad depth is making sure you get the best out of every individual player that you've got. There's no point of having one system and having all these players, but 4 or 5 of them, especially our new signings, don't work in it. You need to have other formations and systems to get the best out of them. Does that make sense? And that's the issue we've got at the moment. We just have one style for football, and it's not suiting people like Ziyech, who are clearly not a number 10 playing through the middle. He wants to be on the right. You know what I mean? So he needs to stick it to the room.
But we have a Havertz.
Yeah,
so why are we playing him? So it's questions. All these questions that we have to question.
Tuchel's just got here. Like he's only how long has he been in charge of you guys for?
3 weeks, 4 weeks, nearly a month.
Yeah, I mean he's still getting to know his players. He needs a bit of time, to be fair to him. But yeah, I understand.
Definitely. It's Frank Ball with energy. I keep telling you. I keep saying it. That's actually what I think it is. Frank Ball with energy, because they're all wanting to play. So you're seeing what Man United fans call individual brilliance right now. You're seeing that energy wanting to play for the manager. I don't think 3 to 4 weeks is enough time at all for a manager to implement anything into a squad. I don't think he knows his players well enough yet. I don't think he knows the balance of the side yet. I don't think he has has the type of players that he wants to make the whole squad gel for his system. There's a lot involved. If a manager didn't want certain players, that we wouldn't have 2 transfer windows, that we wouldn't be buying other players. It's not just about refreshing the squad. It's about buying players to fit your system, right? In terms of Ollie with players, it's very different. It's very different because it's tough to adapt when you haven't got that level of quality. I do expect us to drop off. I've said it all season. I see Man United finishing around 4th. I think we'll still make top 4, but we're going to pick up injuries. We pick up an injury to Rashford or Bruno. We've got big problems. We don't know whether that freaked me out then. A picture of Hads. We got big problems. We don't know whether Pogba's going to be fully fit when he does get back, or whether he's going to have to be forced back in. In terms of striker, for me, we've got one. That's Cavani. That's how I feel about it. We don't have a right winger. If we pick up an injury to Wan-Bissaka, have we got anyone who's reliable there in right back? There's a lot of things that could go wrong for Man United. Yeah. So I do think Ollie has rotated the squad well at the start of the season, but I agree with Rachel. It's going to be tough when these games come thick and fast, the big games, and the further we go in the season, the more you climb up in competitions, the bigger the games are. It's going to be tough. It's going to be a tough one. Yeah. So Man United, Chelsea, 0-0. Was there a point in the game where you thought, here's a real turning point for either side, and you feel like that was the point you should have won the game, where it was won or lost?
No, I mean, really, I feel like it was a bit of chalk and cheese. I mean, we were attacking. We had like a 5-10 minute moment in the game. Then it would switch to you guys, and then it'd be us. But it was nothing really, like in terms of the final third, we just were both toothless in my eyes. We always made the wrong pass or the wrong individual move. Do you know what I mean? And Prime being Prime as usual. Yeah, we've got one more than you, Bobs, because you haven't beaten anyone this season in the top 6. Yeah, it was just toothless performances. I don't think really there was a moment in the game where I sat there and thought, oh, it could have been one there, other than when Greenwood had that opportunity, which Mendy made a good save, and Ziyech had that shot that De Gea had done a great save. You know what I mean? Even the one with Callum Hudson-Odoi when he crossed it in and Giroud missed it, who's done like a diving header. That was an opportunity. I wouldn't say that was a clear-cut chance. It was an opportunity. I think we were very starved with moments to say like, oh, that person could have won there or this, that. The only thing you can think of really and talk about is the penalty moment, whether it was a penalty or not.
So
yeah, we will get into that. Firstly, though, I just want to say I think it was strange to take off Giroud and then bring Reece James on, like not have them on together. I thought that was weird.
Yeah,
I thought it was a weird thing to do, if I'm honest. We'll talk about the penalty. We have to. So I feel like 3 months ago or so that is given 100%. That is given. There's a lot involved with this in terms of the referee, the Luke Shaw comments, Harry Maguire, what have you. Let's go to Lambs first. What was your thoughts on that?
I feel like had they not amended the handball rule, which they applied at the start of the season, it probably would have been given. But because since they've amended it, it would have been absolutely ridiculous if it had been given. I mean, even if the roles were reversed and it was, it came off Greenwood for a Chelsea penalty, I'd be like, that's ridiculous. Like, if it was given, I'd be like, that's absolutely ridiculous, because as you can see, the ball it's been rebounded off by Mendy, and it's fallen and it's bounced kind of awkwardly, where you have Cho and Greenwood basically both kind of challenging each other, like they're going to go for the ball, and their bodies are like interlocked, like basically kind of at like elbow chest kind of level, right, where they're kind of both going. So because of the way that Cho and Greenwood are kind of jumping for the ball, it comes off Cho's arm and then it kind of comes off Greenwood's arm, so it just kind of bounces onto them. There's nothing really they can do for it. There's nothing really they can do about it. So I think for that to be given would have been really, really harsh, especially because it's not a goal scoring opportunity. It's a loose ball that both players are kind of going for. Do you know what I mean? So, real harsh.
Yeah. No, no, don't get me wrong. I don't like penalties like that. For me, it spoils the game. But Rachel, what's your thoughts on it? On the penalty shout?
Honestly, if we got the penalty and we scored from it, it would have just been undeserved. I don't feel like it was a handball, personally. I can understand why people do think it's a handball, but it would have been really harsh on Cho, in my opinion. And I don't like getting penalties like that. It would have felt like an undeserved penalty, personally. But although I don't really know the handball rule like word for word at the moment, so I couldn't really discuss it in terms of the letter of the law. But yeah, I didn't think it was a handball when I saw it. Like the replays, and I didn't think it was at all.
You know what I think needs to change? I really think when they go to VAR, like we need to be listening to what on earth they're saying. We need to hear how they're interpreting things, because it's so confusing for us as fans to kind of sit there and the referee to kind of just sit and stand there. The players are just kind of standing around. They don't really know. Nobody knows what's going on. For him to be putting his finger in his ear like that, going to a screen, and they're still talking. We don't know what they're talking about. We're playing angles. What are you saying? Tell us what you are saying. We need to know how you're coming to these decisions. Because it's very confusing. Like you said, it's so open to interpretation. Sometimes you get these wrong decisions being made, and it's unfair to some clubs, and it's just like, what?
They do it in Australia, I believe. I think they do it in Australia. I think I saw a video of it actually, where the refs were speaking about what was going on in their thought process. That would have been really useful over here, to be honest.
Can you bring up that comment again? No, but can you bring that comment up again? The hand/arm is above/beyond their shoulder level unless the player deliberately plays the ball, which then touches their hand and arm. That's the rule of the handball. He did deliberately play the ball with his arm. The ball was bouncing and they were both running away from the goal. Let's bear in mind, it wasn't even going towards the goal. The ball was bouncing away from the goal. So you can't even say it was a clear-cut chance for a goal. Yeah, away from the goal. And it's hit his arm. Whether it might have touched, it's clear that it's touched his fingers. You see it land on his hand. Fair enough. But my answer is, did it not? But before it got to that, because you could see them tussling each other like that, trying to get to the ball. Yeah. When you run, you don't run like that, do you? What are you meant to do? You're running like.
Jem, you can have the same argument for. You can have the same argument for penalties that be given when players jump.
Yeah.
You can have exactly the same argument.
Unless, you know what? I'll give you an example. You know the Leicester penalty where you saw he puts his arm up, but you can't do that. That's wrong. That's where it is a penalty to me, because they've took a shot and he stuck his arm out. And it hits his arm. In my eyes, it might not have been deliberate on his part, but by the letter of the law, he's blocked an opportunity for a goal in my eyes. So that's a penalty. Do you know what I mean? So I think the biggest problem you've got the referees, us as fans, the VAR, and we're all fucking confused. We just don't know what the handball rule actually is. So it gets so messed up that it ends up getting messy, like with Luke Shaw now, getting this ban, or he's getting a fine or something, isn't he? Or saying this controversy. Like, it shouldn't have never got to that. Do you know what I mean? It's the consistency that's the issue. And if it's the rule, if it's to do with the rule book itself, then readdress the rule book so that everyone understands where we stand with it. It's common sense. Do you know what I mean?
That is the problem. My thing is that we've seen these soft penalties being given. Like, I don't agree with that anyway. Like, I'll be honest. I want to go back to blaming the referee for all the mistakes. I'll be honest with you. Like, I'm not even a big fan of VAR. I can't lie. It slows the game down. I don't want it slowed down. If they can speed it up and figure out all these rules and get some clarification on what actually is handball, this and that, what have you, and make it quicker, I'm all for it. My big thing was, like, VAR's asked the ref to go to the monitor.
Yeah.
The ref's gone to the monitor, seen the handball. I thought the whole idea of VAR was, like, unless they feel the ref has made a correct decision, they're not going to get involved. Does that make sense? Like, why get involved at all and ask the referee to look at the monitor?
Why even highlight
if someone's not saying it's a possible? Yeah, but that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So, because these have been given, that is the problem. For me, I don't think you should be given those as handball, especially when you're running away from goal and there's no advantage to be gained. Like if
No,
there's
that's what I'm
advantage,
saying.
if the ball's going towards goal and it changes the direction, then I think it should be a penalty,
That's what I
right?
said.
Or if
Yeah.
or if the attacking player is to gain an advantage, if he doesn't handball it. But
Yeah.
when it's like that, they're soft penalties. So I've got no issue with the penalty not actually being given. What I have got an issue with is the fact that VAR even wanted the ref to look at it, that they are considering these things as handballs, as penalties. Bob's is right. Anywhere else on the pitch, it will be
It's a free
given as a
kick.
free kick. But you can gain an advantage with a football in the middle of the park, no matter which direction you are traveling. In the box, the biggest advantage is towards the goal. So I don't want to see penalties being given for this. I don't know why these are being looked at, and they do need to address the rule. Is there an advantage? Has anybody gained an advantage from this? Because they both it touched both their arms overall, right? They both touched it.
It looked like
And they
it,
were
didn't
both-
it?
they did.
It's not even like he's punched the ball, right? It's not even like he's punched it in front of him
It's not like
and he's
that.
got him for pace. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
that's-
it's
yeah.
touched his hand is a soft one. Does anybody have any theories or a way the rules could be changed to make this clearer, so the VAR doesn't even have to take time on this? Have you got any thoughts?
I honestly think, just to echo what I said earlier, we need to hear these conversations, because it literally, just going back to what you guys were saying, you know, the game was stopped, they were like discussing, he was in his ear for a second, then he stopped again, to the monitor, and he was just replaying it, looking at different angles, and there was a good 2 minutes spent just coming to a conclusion over whether this was a penalty or not. And the whole time we're just sitting there thinking, what is going on? Like, how is this being interpreted? I want to hear how they're saying this, referring it back to the laws, like, and when you're coming to these decisions, whether it's a penalty or not, why you're even looking at it, explain to us. We want to hear why. Why is it being looked at? Why? Let us hear, because then these won't be getting these kind of like this social media abuse or whatever that they're getting, because we're confused. We want to know why these decisions are being made, because it's ruining games and it's impacting games. So I understand why people are angry. So if you want to avoid all that, let us listen to what you're saying. Let us hear how you're coming to these decisions. And then we as fans will be like, okay, fine. As a referee, by the letter of the law, he was doing his job according to this, because we heard the conversation. We heard how the decision was eventually made.
Yeah. And actually, in turn, if that happens, Luke Shaw doesn't face a ban, right?
Yeah.
He shouldn't have.
Luke
He shouldn't
Shaw
even
doesn't face a ban.
face the ban. He shouldn't even face the ban.
Explained.
But what gets me more is VAR have took it into themselves, because they only go to referees when it's a clear and obvious error, right? So that means that VAR have sat there and said to themselves, I think that might be a penalty, but didn't want to call out the ref on it. So they've spoken to the ref in the ear and told him to go and have a look. The ref stuck by his decision not to give that a pen. So that isn't a clear and obvious error then, is it? So why the hell did VAR bother coming back to him when no one even noticed it? When the ball was at the other end of the pitch, we were still playing. It was only when the ball went out for a throw-in and he went like that, it was like, what the fuck's going on? Like, no one even noticed. It wasn't, even Greenwood didn't notice it, or Cho. Do you know what I mean? So I don't know.
I don't think you can even blame the refs. I don't think you can blame the refs, because I think they're so confused. They don't actually know what they're doing right now.
No, and I think
it's obviously not clear for them either, is it? How can it be clear for them if they're asked to look at the monitor? Like,
but surely,
for me, he's done the right thing. There's no advantage to be gained. Like, there shouldn't be a penalty. That kills the game.
If you're a ref and you are uncertain on a rule, these refs have meetings. Why is it not brought to their attention?
They're having another meeting, Jim. They're actually having another meeting to either change the rule or clarify it, because they obviously don't understand. It's about consistency, right? So if you're going to give that penalty, if you like, that yesterday, you have to give that same type of penalty throughout the season.
Yeah, consistency. Yeah,
it has to be consistent. So if anybody else has there will be another handball like that, and a ref will give a penalty. That will happen because it's that ref's interpretation of that rule. That is the problem.
That's the problem. That is the problem. Yeah.
Just no consistency, not keeping the same energy.
Yeah.
Like we're looking at like for example, let me bring up the red card decision that Nicolas Pepe was given for the headbutt for against Alioski. We saw an even more aggressive form of that in the Champions League with Fred, and you got yellow cards, and it's just like what? Like
Yeah, that was weird.
barely
Yeah,
make
That was a
very
weird
lucky.
one.
it's a red
That
card.
was-
And we saw Fred like aggressively getting to his face, and it was a yellow card. So again, it's just like what? But that's a red card. So why was that interpreted as a yellow card on this occasion? And that's what sparks the controversy. Because people are now comparing the same incident in multiple games where certain players have been sent off and certain players have been let off, and it's just like
Yeah.
No, that's the problem.
Yeah, I agree.
Consistency. Rachel, would you like to see refs mic'd up? Do you think that's
Yeah.
the way forward?
100%. I think the issue in England is much worse than the rest of Europe. From what I've seen, there's too many issues in England with the referees and VAR. I don't have a problem with VAR. I just think it's the execution that's been really, really poor. Like sometimes it feels like the referees just genuinely don't know what the hell they're doing. Because some of the
I
decisions
agree.
they're making on the same day, like there will be like a game one after the other, exactly the same incident, completely different result. And there's no consistency between what, 2 hours? It's not like it's a week later or 2 weeks later and there's a slight difference between the two. It's literally 2 hours and they're making different decisions for the same incident. So it's like they need to be retrained, and they need to sort out the rule makers as well, because the rule makers of like football in this country has been terrible for a really long time. It's always inconsistent. They need to sack them all, as far as I'm concerned, and bring in some new people that actually know about football.
Yeah.
The one thing I would just quickly say on VAR, since it's came in, it's actually done a lot of good. If you look at the decisions that have been given, which a naked eye a ref wouldn't have been able to spot, and you look at it and it's reversed back, and you go, "Oh my god, it's a penalty!" Like that's what it's for. The issue with VAR is not VAR. It's not VAR. The issue with VAR is the people using VAR. Do you know what I mean? Because they're not using it properly, you know. So, and like you said, that's going to take time. It is new to them. Fair enough. I get it. It's only been used for what, a season now? Is it, or 2 season? I can't remember. So yeah, man. Hopefully, it just gets a bit better. They need to improve on the rule book. That's the big thing for me. Improve on the rule book. Make it clear for everyone to understand that if an incident actually happens, like what happened with Cho yesterday, and it's given that. Every time that happens, it's going to be given. That should just be the rule, and it's all about having consistency and that mate. Yeah. So yeah, that's what it is.
So because of that, do you feel that Ollie had a right to be angry because they have been given before? Like, because football's fine margins, right? Especially when it's top 6 playing. Do you think he's a bit frustrated? Neither one of them really created a lot, and that was a chance to nick 3 points.
I think Ollie approached it wrong, if you want my honest opinion, in terms of what he said. You could tell it was clear frustration. In football, it's normal. Things go for you, things don't. Doesn't matter if you've got VAR or not. And in that situation, he should have looked at it and thought, did we play well enough to deserve all 3 points? I don't think anyone did. I think, in fairness, you've got to look at it and say, all right, could have been a penalty, couldn't have been a penalty. It wasn't given. We take it on the chin. We know the rule book needs to be improved. You know, we move on, you know, but every team wants to win. I get it. So there is an element of frustration there, but to just keep moaning about penalty makes no sense. Do you know what I mean?
And a smash and grab actually wouldn't be too bad for United. Away to Chelsea, Tuchel, new manager bounce, you know, Frank Ball of energy, fully fit squad. Sorry, I can't help it. And no Cavani, no Pogba.
At least we've got a system, innit?
Smash and grab, 1-0. Come on, Jim.
What is your identity?
It's Frank Ball with energy. That's your system.
Yeah, but what's Man United's identity? What is their style of football?
Good question, Jem.
I don't think they've got a style of football, mate.
You don't think we've got one at all? Like none.
No, why do you think? Why do you moan about the way
up?
you play in terms of moving the ball forward? There's no system or style, or you give it to Fred and McTominay, and then you moan that it breaks down before it gets to Bruno. Like, there's obviously a system issue there, isn't there? Like, it's not flowing. Like, we have a bit of a flow because we all of our players are aware of what's required of them. Under Lampard, they didn't have that. At Lampard, they were lost in their style of football. They didn't know what they were doing, and hence why Lampard got the sack, because there was no identity at the football club. What I'm saying is we have an identity. It's just that we're not clinical enough. You guys, for all I know, you play counter football. You sit back and you get it to Bruno and you counter. Like, is that your identity as a football club? Like,
No, that's not true at all. I mean, it's not the best style of football that we have, but we are limited with our personnel. Like, it's clear to see. You have Kovacic and you have Jorginho, two very good passers of the ball that play in the holding role. I think Lampard played a 4-2-3-1 with you guys and you hated it, didn't you? But one of the things you did have was that you had two sixes, say, who actually could pass the ball and break lines. It's as I said before, if you look at the way we play, with when we played our best style of football, it was when we had Matic and Pogba just after the restart, after lockdown. And what we did is we usually play out from the back. We had Matic who dropped into the back three, and when we built up from the back, we had a diamond. We had Pogba at the base of it. You'd have Bruno Fernandes at the tip, and you'd have Wan-Bissaka and Luke Shaw in the wide areas. And then you'd have Greenwood and Rashford, who are our inside forwards, playing in the half spaces so that our wide players could get forward. And then you'd have Martial and Bruno linking up in the final third. That's how we built up from the back. We usually play in fast transitions, so we try to get the ball up the pitch as quick as possible. And in the final third, it's more fluid. I agree that sometimes that when we play, we slow the game down too much. We don't really know what to do when we have. Basically, if we take more than 3 touches in a midfield, we have massive problems. They don't know what to do on the ball. That's a personnel issue. It's not a system issue.
So you actually believe that you've got a system? Is that what you're saying? You believe there is something, there is an identity there that you can work on. Like,
what do I say? What do I say to you, Jem, about Fred? What do I call him?
The pastor, the useless, God knows, whatever you want to call him, mate.
I call him pastor poor decisions. No, because you've got to move the ball quickly. And this is why I say he's a low IQ footballer, because I watch Fred and sometimes the balls come to his feet and then he looks up to see where he can pass the ball. You can't do it. You can't play in this system if you've got to think about where the ball is going to go. You should already know what you're doing with the ball. Rachel's 100% right. We need better midfielders. We need better footballers as such, quicker, making the decisions faster, knowing instincts. Instincts is what we're missing. It makes a massive difference.
I saw somebody in the chat earlier.
Carriers, yeah.
I saw somebody in the chat earlier basically kind of like list the midfielders that you guys have in Bruno, Fred, McTominay, Pogba, Matic, and literally, Donny. And out of all of them, only 2 of them are good enough for the squad. Maybe one of them, Donny, is hard to kind of make a proper assessment on him because he hasn't really played enough. We don't really know which position he flies best in because he hasn't had the opportunity yet. But out of the rest of them, Pogba and Bruno are the only ones good enough to play for Manchester United. And again, this is where you look back to recruitment, because everybody else, nobody else, none of them everybody else in that midfield was not picked by Alex Ferguson. So since Alex has gone, the recruitment by the board, by the managers who've come in and demanded certain players, has all been poor.
Lambs, it was poor before that.
Poor. Yeah,
it was poor whilst Fergie was there. Since
we didn't buy midfielders under Fergie.
I guess that's the reason why he chose to kind of retire, because he knew what board he was working with.
He got out. He got out at the right time.
He was like, he just keep my legacy intact and just duck out of here before they ruin this club. And he could see exactly which direction that they were taking the club, and you can see. United have never been the same. They've progressively fallen. Do you know what I mean? There's still win things here and thereabouts to still be considered. I mean, they still place to still be considered like a top 14, a big city. Good enough. But compared to the old standards, definitely not good enough. Like the contrast is clear as night. It's clear as night and day.
Yeah, I agree. I
Yeah.
I hate our midfielders. I can't stand them. It's
You're big on midfielders, aren't you? That's that's your thing.
Why do you
really.
not? What's your evaluation of Fred, Rachel?
so when I assess midfielders, I look at their passing ability, their reading of the game, their ability to carry the ball, and their general vision on the pitch. When I look at Fred, even if he had like the best reading of the game and he knew exactly what he wanted to do with the ball, his first touch won't allow him to do it anyway. He's got a horrible first touch.
That's true.
Yeah.
His passing is hit and miss. Sometimes he makes very good line breaking passes, but then literally 5 minutes later, he can't make a simple one. He's very inconsistent with his passing. None of our midfielders, apart from Paul Pogba, carry the ball well. Not even Bruno. Bruno doesn't run with the ball at all. He picks up the ball, there's loads of space in front of him, and he will pass it off. And the problem with that is that if he runs at defenders and pulls them towards him when he's got the ball, then space opens up for our forward players. But he doesn't do that. So then every time Rashford or Greenwood make a run, and their runs aren't great, Rashford makes very straight runs. He doesn't curve his runs enough. So what ends up happening is a fullback just runs back with him, and it cuts off the passing line every single time. And with Bruno Fernandes, his passing is hit or miss at times as well. So that's why we're so inconsistent in the final third. So it's really, really frustrating to watch every single game. And McTominay, his passing is, sorry, go on.
Would you say that in the summer, a centre midfielder, maybe a DM, is the key signing that you need to make? Two, you're saying, yeah? They would be your main targets in the summer.
Absolutely. Our board is, I don't know how many summers we're going to get with this board, but if we were to have an ideal summer for what we need to progress to next summer, we need 4.
Wow.
I'm okay with, like I said to Indiana earlier, I'm okay with missing out on a striker this season because we would have Cavani for an extra season. I'd want 2 central midfielders. I'd want a right winger and I'd want a centre back. Because if we sell Paul Pogba, we don't have any ball carriers in our team. We need someone to pick up the ball and run. We have no one. And like this is a Manchester United team that, if you compare it to our old Manchester United teams with the players that we had, like Roy Keane and Paul Scholes is known for his passing, but it was so much more than that. He could dribble. Him and Roy Keane could pick up the ball and they could run with it.
Yeah.
They could make great forward passes. They could switch the play. They read the game well.
Yeah, I remember.
Our midfielders have 2 of those attributes, but not all of them, and no one can carry the ball. That's why I get so frustrated. Like our midfield is horrible.
So for you, it breaks down in the midfield before it even moves or goes anywhere a lot of the time. So I get that.
Yeah, it's a gamble, Jim. Our midfield is a
time.
gamble. Every transition is a gamble. It is. It is really. You don't know what you're going to get from it. That is the problem. It's why.
So why was you so good at the end of last season then, Indiana? Why was it ticking so well and you were scoring so many goals? Was it your front 3 and Bruno? Like how was the transition from, say, your defence to midfield to strike moving so well, and now it's you can't break the lines? Like what's the issue?
I think it's a number of things this season to last season. I think one of the main things is now that we've kind of been not figured out as such, but teams know what we're doing, right? So you think back to when we played Chelsea last season. Also, Bruno does make a difference in how we play. Let's not get that twisted. Is a massive, huge game changer.
Yeah.
Also, I do feel that one of the things that's happened this season is we've been a lot slower with the ball coming out the back at times. Like you've even heard the coaches. The first pass sets the tone for how you're going to play in that move, right? So Harry Maguire right now is actually really important with that when he comes out with the ball. Nice, fast, crisp pass sets the tone for how we're going to play. At times, we haven't done that. We've dilly-dallied with the ball. Actually, a lot of the time, if we start with Wan-Bissaka, I'm not really having to dig it in, but I'm just saying, if we start with Wan-Bissaka, we don't really see that passage of play all the way through because of how we've set the tone with the ball. Does that make sense? Like it's sloppy passes, or he might give a 1-2, but not really do the 2, just do the 1. Do you know what I mean? Like, this is why I keep saying to you, the balance in this side is so wrong. I think the other thing for me is that the start of the season, Are you talking about the start of the season and the end of this one, or are you talking about comparing where we are now to where we were at the end last season?
Yeah, I just
Because
in terms of goals,
3 to
though,
4
like,
different stages for me.
yeah.
So which one?
No, I'm talking about obviously. So your end of last season to where you are now. Why is this such a? You scored so many goals at the end of last season. You were potent. You were fluid in your movements, moving the ball forward, and all of a sudden it's like you've lost that. I know Martial. Well, we haven't started on Martial, maybe another show, but he's
That
completely
is a
gone
show.
from a complete dip of form. But it can't just be that. Why has it just dipped off so big? You
I
know?
think people started exploiting our. So Pogba and Matic were our midfield two post lockdown. That's when that's what you're talking about, isn't it? When we were scoring more goals, right?
Yeah.
So Matic and Pogba were our midfield two. Attacking wise, they're our best midfield two. It's just defensively that we've got problems because they don't cover ground quick enough between the two of them. So when we first started playing them, and teams sat back, it was much easier for us, to break teams down because, as I said, they have line breaking passes. The movement was a lot better. And then when we started playing, I think after that lockdown, I think the beginning of the season, I think we started the season with Matic and Pogba, didn't we? When Pogba just recovered from COVID and we played against Palace.
Yeah.
Started with them. Obviously, Paul Pogba wasn't fit. I was furious that he even started that game because a week prior he had COVID, and I know a lot of people that have had COVID, they don't recover well at all. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I was furious with that, and then he started them again in the next game against Brighton, where we were horrendous and got lucky to win. And then he started them again against Tottenham, and it was like, Ollie, what are you doing? Honestly, it was awful. And then obviously after the 6-1, and we came back and we started playing Europe, we brought back the McTominay and Fred partnership against Newcastle, I think it was, and we beat them like 4-1. And he went back to basics because he was too scared to concede too many goals again. And it sort of went from there. And our midfield's been very inconsistent in terms of the partnerships that are in there. Sometimes it's Pogba and Fred. Sometimes it's Pogba and McTominay. Sometimes it's McTominay, Fred. Like the partnerships, they're not solid at all.
There's no consistency.
There's a lot of things though that it is about consistency, because you wouldn't look at it as Martial was more of a threat. He was on this game, and I don't really want to go into Martial because that is a whole show.
That's another.
And then you've got no. When you're talking about the big six, you're talking about the big six. You're talking about nullifying Bruno. That's a big thing. You're right about the change up in centre midfield. There is a massive difference there. Cavani coming in, that changes a few things as well. There's so many factors to this. It's, for me, again, it's due to the lack of quality we have. It's okay having different types of players, but you've got to have them at a certain level. I do think we could have a Fred on the bench. I think he can come in and do a job. I don't want to see him starting though. I don't want to see United at the level where we're starting Fred and McTominay. That's not good enough. Fred can come on and he can do a job, a specific role in a game. You can ask him to do a job like that. Do you really see him being a title-winning midfielder? Him, McTominay, Matic? No, I don't see any of those three.
You don't trust them. That's the issue.
No, I don't see Dan James, Martial. I don't see a partnership of Maguire and Lindelof. I don't see Wan-Bissaka on his own without another option there, without a right winger. We are miles off. So actually, where we are in the table has been earned. I do feel like it has been earned. But listen, we're going to wrap up. I'm sure we can go into loads of things. I think the gist of it is the gist for the Chelsea Man United game is Chelsea feel like substitutes should have been made earlier. Probably should have set up with a different team. Certain players should have come in. United will feel like we have Pogba and Cavani. We could have taken something from that game. We feel like we didn't have enough game changers, no one to bring off the bench. But I want to thank you everyone for coming on. Please get in the description. Please go follow everybody's socials. Shout out to Rachel, her first ever stream. Came across really well. Incredible points.
Well done.
To have you on. Gemma Lambs, as always, they're always on the channel. 7:00 will be the League One, League Two show. There's someone new coming on. You probably know his face. So please go and do that. They'll be doing a breakdown of young players from the Premier League. who are on loan in League One and League Two. So you get to know how the players from your club are doing. They do a breakdown of the league itself, the results, and hopefully a bit of banter between the three of them, three rivals. So please go and check that out at 7 o'clock. Go and follow everybody's socials and subscribe to the channels. Please go and do that and like the stream. But thank you everybody for coming on. Thank you everybody for watching and supporting, and we'll catch you at 7.